Alright everyone, so this video is going to be a continuation in my series where we look at the swing and lean states of the 2020 election, and we take a look at past elections, demographics, and overall political trends in the states to try to determine whether Joe Biden or Donald Trump will win them in 2020. So of course this state we're going to be looking at is Virginia. I filled out the counties and independent cities of Virginia for safe, lean, and likely margins for each candidate. So this gives Donald Trump the advantage in 86 counties and cities in Virginia as opposed to Biden's 37 counties and cities. And while Trump may have the geographic dominance here in Virginia, Biden certainly has the dominance in the counties that matter. Northern Virginia, the Richmond suburbs, Chesterfield County being a toss-up, but we'll take a look at how that county's been trending. And of course the Hampton Roads region of Virginia. And with a map already looking like this, even if Trump won all of these swing counties, he really has to chip away at margins in the likely blue counties and the safe blue counties in order for him to win the state of Virginia as a whole. So first, let's look at the 2016 election results out of Virginia. Hillary Clinton got 49.8% of the vote to Donald Trump's 44.4%. That's giving her a 5.3% advantage. And if we look at Northern Virginia, Fairfax County, the most populous county in Virginia, Trump got obliterated in the county, losing it by around 36 points, which is astronomical, even for a Republican. As we're going to look at the 2012 election results in a minute, Romney only lost the county by like 20 points, so this is 14 points more. So Northern Virginia taking a massive swing to the left. And as we'll see, that Loudoun County, Prince William, these are the counties in Northern Virginia that really matter. Stafford County is kind of I guess an exurb as they're called or something, but this doesn't really have that many people and is still kind of in the likely Republican column. And then of course as we go down here to the Hampton Roads area, Hillary Clinton has really impressive margins in here as well. These are swing cities that Donald Trump was able to pick up, but albeit very barely. But Hillary Clinton had excellent margins in the cities down here, as well as the Republican-leaning counties like York County and James City County, which Hillary Clinton only lost by around 5 points. And then, of course, the last metro area, Roanoke, sort of, but not really. There's not really that many people over here. But the last metro area is going to be the Richmond metro area, specifically Hanover County here, which is safe Republican and won by Donald Trump by 33 points. Henrico County, which is a suburban county outside of Richmond, of course, going to Hillary by a very comfortable margin. And Chesterfield, which went to Trump just barely, and I put as a toss-up, as we'll look at the results in the other elections will kind of demonstrate that. But in order for Donald Trump to win Virginia in 2020, he's going to have to improve his margins in Chesterfield, obviously, chip away at Democratic gains in Henrico, and of course all of the safe blue and even lean blue and even red states. He needs to improve his margins across the board in these urban areas, because if we look at the rural areas, he's got these down on lock, and I'd say he's near maxed out probably support in these rural areas. So where he has to focus his campaign on now is trying to win these suburbs. Now, do I think he will do it? We'll get into that towards the end of the video, whether I think Trump can actually flip Virginia. And, you can bring up a lot of contemporary politics like, the Second Amendment rally, the gun issue, the Democrats sweeping the legislature. How will that play into 2020? And we'll get in that more towards the end of the video. But this is just to give you a sense of how the 2016 election went in Virginia. If we look at the detailed precinct map, bears out the same picture. Trump gets killed in the suburbs for the most part and urban areas, Hillary Clinton having massive dominance, as Joe Biden will as well. And of course, as we look in an area like, let's just use Henrico County for an example, these areas here, which are suburbs of Richmond, are either going to Hillary by a lean margin or going to Trump by a lean margin. There's no overwhelming victories here, but looking at all these suburbs, Hillary has the edge in the Virginia suburbs overall. And the same holds true in Northern Virginia, which is very, very blue, and this was not always the case. Back in 2004, Bush actually won the counties of Loudoun and Prince William and only lost Fairfax County, I believe, by around 5 or 6 points. It was not a... And in 2000, Fairfax County went to George W. Bush. So Northern Virginia, through from the beginning of the 20th century to now, just 20 years later, has gone from light red to basically deep blue. And of course, we could just hop down to the last metro area we were talking about, Hampton Roads. Virginia Beach, which is a county Trump's going to have to heavily improve his margins in order to win the state. Like, he's going to have to get like 54% of the vote. And I mean, it's possible, but the way Virginia Beach has been trending, it's like one of those areas that's basically 50-50 exactly. It's very hard to find an election where a Republican wins Virginia Beach by over single digits, at least in recent Virginia history. But again, these areas, Newport News, Portsmouth, these are all parts of Hampton Roads that go heavily to Hillary Clinton and that are going to go heavily to Joe Biden. And the suburbs of these counties, same situations. And you could bring up, demographics or whatever, but just the overall shift in suburbs in general when we look at the U.S. is a shift to the left, is a shift to the Democratic Party. And part of that probably does have to do with Trump's message. It doesn't resonate as much with people in the suburbs as it does in rural areas. So that's basically just to give you an idea of the precinct breakdown. We just want to take a look at Western Virginia. Absolutely overwhelming numbers for Donald Trump. He certainly dominated here in the western part of the state and the rural part of the state. But even with these humongous margins, getting 82% of the vote in western counties and all that, it's not enough to win the overall state because Virginia is a lot more urbanized than North Carolina, which we talked about in the last video. There's a lot more people crammed into these population metro areas, and you really have to chip away at Democratic margins if you're ever going to have a chance at winning the state of Virginia. And again, you could say, well, he only lost it by 5 points. He could certainly win it again, and yeah, he could. He could definitely win it again. But as we're about to see, the trends don't really bear that out. So if you want to look at the overall change from the 2012 election, we're going to look at that next. But if we want to look at the overall change, Northern Virginia, all the population centers were the areas that went heavily to the left, and that's basically what prevented Trump from carrying Virginia. If Trump had held Romney margins in Northern Virginia, in the Richmond area, in the Hampton Roads area, he would have won the state, no question about it. He probably would have won it by 1 or 2 or 3 points or something like that. He would have won Virginia. But that's not what happened. The urban areas, the suburban areas went heavily to the Democratic Party and broke heavily for Hillary Clinton overall. And because of that, he ended up losing. So if we look at 2012, according to those arrows, by the way, it says Romney got 41% in Fairfax, which if is true, is a pretty big feat considering Trump only got 26%. But again, these numbers are kind of off. The real margin is Obama won Virginia by 3.9 points. This only has it around 3. But again, if we look, besides Virginia Beach being slightly closer, if we look at these counties up here, Loudoun County, around a 4-point difference. Prince William County, 16 points. Okay, that's kind of big. And Fairfax is nearly 20. If we look at 2016, a lot different. It's a much different situation. Loudoun County's difference is by a safe margin. Prince William over 20 points. I think it's 23 or something. And Fairfax around 34. So just huge margins, even huge changes from 2012. And of course, Romney did poorer in the rural areas, and that's what prevented him from winning the state. If Romney was more appealing to rural voters, he would have absolutely won Virginia. It's hard to win both the suburban, urban, chip away at urban margins, and also win over the vast majority of the rural vote. It's very difficult to do. It takes a very special candidate. And Trump is not the candidate, apparently, because he's not able to win these suburban localities. So now if we look at 2008, again, New York Times does not update past elections. I know it says 100% reporting, but these are not the actual numbers. Obama ended up winning the state by 6.3%. Those are the actual numbers I have written down here. And of course, if we look at areas like Fairfax County, Prince William, Loudoun County, these are all areas where Obama overperformed. We look back at 2004, these were all red counties. Prince William was a red county. Loudoun was likely red. Prince William, lean red. Henrico County, likely red. And then, of course, in 2008, that's flipped completely on its head. And you could say, well, the recession, John McCain was a weak candidate, whatever. But either way, Obama was able to flip these suburbs, and they have stayed blue ever since. And going into 2020, there's no evidence to the contrary that those suburbs are going to flip red. It's not there. If we look at the 2008 margins again, 6.3%, 2012, 3.9% advantage for the Democrats, and 2016, 5.3% advantage for the Democrats. So it doesn't really, there's not an overall trend either way, but if we look at all the elections, Virginia's been trending more blue. And that brings me to my last election we're going to look at, the 2017 gubernatorial race. And you could say, well, that doesn't mean anything. This is a local race. Yes, but in a way, this race was very nationalized. In a way, Trump was almost on the ballot himself, because this was heavily nationalized. The Republican in this race, Ed Gillespie, tried to do this tactic where he could keep Trump at an arm's length, try to distance himself from Trump because he knew Virginia was a lean blue state. He knew Trump was not that popular in Virginia, but at the same time, he would have Mike Pence doing events for him. Trump every now and then would tweet out support for Ed Gillespie, but it was a very kind of distant, strange relationship, and obviously that did not work out for him. He lost by almost 10 points. I think these numbers are a tad bit off, but the margin of victory for Northam was, I think, exactly 9 points at the end of the day. Well, these are around 9 points. But yeah, Ralph Northam won this race by 9 points, and you might think, well, that sounds close, but electorally speaking, that's not close. That's a safe, not a safe margin. That's going to be like a safe likely, in a way. Because I put the likely scale at 7 to 15. That's a 9-point victory. That puts Virginia in the likely blue column. And overall, Ralph Northam had the advantage going in. He was the lieutenant governor in 2013 when the actual governor's race was between, I think it was a 3-point difference between Terry McAuliffe, the Democrat, and I'm blanking on the other guy's name. Whatever. But anyway, there was a 3-point difference in that race, and in 2017 there's a 9-point difference. So clearly there's a huge shift to the left, and in that same 2013 race, what I was trying to get to was Ralph Northam won his lieutenant governor's race by 10 points, and he was able to win these same counties, like Virginia Beach, which Virginia Beach is a lean red county. He ends up winning it by around 5 points. And we could look at all these other counties. James City County almost wins James City County. Chesterfield, I actually think the final results have Ralph Northam barely winning Chesterfield County. So Chesterfield County going blue, despite it being red here. Henrico County overwhelmingly blue. Of course, Northern Virginia. Ed Gillespie improves overall in Northern Virginia. In Prince William County overall, in Fairfax County, Loudoun County's about exactly the same as it was in 2016. But overall, Ed Gillespie does improve in the cities. Problem: he loses a lot of the rural areas, and he loses a lot of the suburbs down here. So while Ed Gillespie does better in Nova, he does not do well in the Richmond metro area, and he still does not do well in Hampton Roads. In fact, he lost a ton of ground here. And if we just skim across real quick, the closest race out of these statewide races was the lieutenant governor's race. And even in that case, this would probably be a better case scenario for Trump getting 47.3%, because this race is a lot closer. But again, what's imperative here is that the increased margins in Northern Virginia, you need to somehow come up with a formula where you can chip away at Democratic gains here in Northern Virginia while still holding on to the rural areas and also clinching the suburbs and kind of increasing your margins there, because Chesterfield County is like a light red county, a tilt red county at this point. Its elections are decided between 1 or 2 points or something like that. By the way, I remember the name of that guy in the 2013 governor's race, Ken Cuccinelli. That just completely came to me, but that's beside the point. And he was a former attorney general. But it's interesting because in 2021, apparently, Mark Herring and Justin Fairfax are both going to run for the governor's race in 2021. Which brings me to my last point, which is how will the whole Second Amendment debacle play into the 2020 election? Are we going to see increased rural turnout? Are we going to see the rural areas of Virginia get much redder, higher turnout, and maybe in some of these counties as well chip away at margins, higher turnout overall among Republicans? Will it make a difference? Well, I don't really think so. It might make a point or two difference, but this is not an issue. There's not enough people in the state to flip it red, quite frankly. There's not enough Republicans. The state is basically a likely blue state, and unless polling shows otherwise, it's probably going to stay that way. My official prediction is Biden will probably win the state of Virginia by 6 points. 7, maybe. 6 or 7 points. I don't think Virginia is going to be a pickup for Trump personally. But of course, where Trump lacks in Virginia, he can make up for in states like Minnesota, which could be a pickup for him. He could easily pick up the state of New Hampshire. I mean, Hillary Clinton only won New Hampshire by 0.2%. You know, he could easily pick off the state of New Hampshire. And Maine. You know, Maine is, of course, less likely, but, you know, it is possible. Maine. So the states that Trump has the best chance of picking up are probably Maine, Minnesota, New Hampshire, and Nevada. Those are all states that were within under 3 points. So if Trump's going to pick up any states, probably going to be one of those. But Virginia does not seem to be like one of them. Again, federal workers, of course, we can go back to the shutdown back in 2019. Really unhappy with Donald Trump. Overall, I think his net approval rating is not that bad in Virginia. Last I checked, it was -4, which in a state that didn't vote for him is actually pretty high, because I think in states like Iowa and Michigan, it's like -10. His overall net approval, which is I think disapproval minus approval, or no, it's approval minus disapproval, and that's the net approval or something like that. But in Virginia, apparently it's -4, so that kind of gave me the sense that, oh, you know, maybe Trump does have a chance in Virginia. But that would only be in a scenario where Bernie Sanders is probably the nominee. And while Bernie Sanders would be a lot stronger in an area like the Rust Belt, maybe in Arizona, he's going to be weaker in Virginia, because Virginia is really the heart of the Democratic establishment, the Washington establishment. It's right here. This is where they all live, here in Northern Virginia. So this state is probably going to go to Joe Biden by around 5-6 points. My official prediction, I'd put it at around 6 points. But anyway, that's my video today. Trump, if he wants to win the state of Virginia, he has to somehow come up with the perfect formula to chip away at votes in Northern Virginia, all the other metro areas, and he has to hold on to these huge margins he has in the rural part of the states. That's the only way he can win. And so far, all the races we've looked at, Democrats have won, and no Republican has been able to come up with a formula like that's able to win in Virginia. Again, if we just go back, a Republican hasn't won a statewide office in Virginia since 2009. You know, both Virginia senators are Democrat. Both state House chambers recently flipped to the Democrats in 2019. So this is a state on the trend blue. Can Trump buck that trend? You know, barring some insane circumstance, probably not, unless Biden's campaign completely implodes or something else happens, maybe with the gun issue in Virginia that's much more high profile. But I don't think a single issue is going to flip Virginia into Trump's column. Anyway, that's going to be all for today's video. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. I'll be doing more of these videos with the other swing states, and I hope to see you in the next one.